What's up, boys and girls? This is Spit Logic, and today I'm going to talk about patterns and effects, kind of putting those effects on your patterns, different options that you have to manipulate those patterns, and different options that you have for effects. So let's go ahead and get into it. Just to get started, I've already built a couple of patterns here in this particular project. What I'm going to do is kind of go over a few of the options that you have with effects. Now, as probably stated in plenty of videos, but I'll just state it again. These effects are created, done, stored, and processed in a matter of the bus, in a series of the bus, different bus. So there's your bus effects button right there. You have 4 different bus effects when you're dealing with creating music here on your SP4 Mark II. And each of those different effects is going to have an overall effect on your music. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to go into the effects settings. So you're going to hold Shift, Pad 16, and you're going to go into the effects settings. Now this is going to start with your overall overview of how your bus effects look, and it's a visualization of what the output, the throughput is. You see, this is where the original signal starts, and this is where the output is going to be and what the output is going to sound like. So you see right here, bus 1, bus 2, 3, and 4 in that direct order. Now, something that's a little bit interesting, something that you can do, if you push down the enter button right here, then you'll see that the bus 2 now falls under the bus 1. So again, talking logically, if this is where the original signal is going out to, then this means that one signal goes into bus 1, a second signal goes into bus 2. They both join prior to going into bus 3 and into bus 4. We'll get into that portion a little bit later, but I just want to make you aware of this particular option. So going back towards the other options, you see there are 5 tabs up here under the effects settings. This first tab is your favorites tab. So this will store what you have set for bus 3 and bus 4. And you see right here, it says what the 2 effects on bus 3 and bus 4 are. I typically have the equalizer and the compressor. That is what I use just as kind of a pre-mixing, pre-mastering for the beats that I make. I don't typically use a lot of effects when I'm making beats, but when I do a resampling re-effects as opposed to in real time. Now, if you turn this knob right here, the inner knob, it'll go through the different favorites that you have. And if we're scrolling all the way to the end, you see you have 16 different favorites that you can have for effects that you can have stored in here. Similar to the 16 pads that you have here on your SP4 Mark II. So if we're using a Control Knob 3, this will help us scroll between the different tabs. So if I scroll to using knob 3, it'll take me directly to bus 3. That allows me to manipulate the actual parameters of the effect. So using my inner knob, and you'll see right here where the kind of dotted line is, that's kind of highlighting the effect. If I pull it down, you see that that little line has gone down to these 3 parameters. And these 3 knobs right here correspond directly with those 3 parameters. So you are able to manipulate those parameters as you use the knob to go to each one. Now right here at the top, where it has the actual effect, in order to manipulate that one, you want to push the enter button and you'll see it highlight, you'll see it light up. And from there, you'll be able to change to which actual effect you want to try to use for your music. Now going on past the bus, the different buses, the different effects, if you go down to the direct tab, that tab is going to show these 6 buttons right here. Okay, and these buttons are pre-made to a factory setting, but what you can do if you want is, and you can see that little dotted line right there. If you push enter on it, you can change what effect you want had in this particular button. This has effects 1 through 5 on there, right? And there is a 6th effect, the multi-effects button. If I go down another tab, and this is the final tab out of the 5 tabs, and I scroll all the way down to the bottom right here, you'll see multi-effects top. This is where you could actually program this MFX button to the effect that you want it to be. So right now it's on the vinyl sim. If I want it on something else, I can change it to any other effect that I want it to be in. So there's some other things that we could go into, some other things that we can discuss when it comes to effects. I think I'll probably save that for another video, but right now that we know what we want to do and we know how these effects are sitting as far as the buttons and as far as the settings, right now we're going to go into the different bus here live on your device. When it comes to effects and when it comes to using your Mark II, especially for patterns, let's say you have a particular pattern and you want to put effects on the entire pattern. So I'll play this pattern right here. And this is the pattern as it goes. If you want to put the effects on that pattern, all you have to do is push the effect that you want it to be affected by. And you see we're on bus 1 right now, and this is what I'm going to do right here. So when I push the delay button, it's going to affect the entire sample. And then depressing it, of course, is going to turn it off. Now, I'll say this about our samples, and as you know, when you get out of pattern mode, it'll show you exactly what's being pressed on your pattern. So if I find right here, bank G is where I'm using the samples for this particular one. Now there's an interesting thing that you can do here where the remain button allows you to choose what effects you want affecting what particular samples between bus 1 and 2. So if I hold down the remain button while I'm on this bank and I hold it down, you'll see that all of these pads light up a little bit more. It's showing the information about this particular pad, but if I push this button, you see that the pads turn white. So I'm going to hit every button on here on this particular bank. So now, even when I let it go, even though it doesn't shine as brightly, they're all still white. Now, if I go back to my pattern and I play this pattern, it still plays normal. When it lights up as white and when you do remain while on bus 1, it completely bypasses all of the effects. So now, when I hit delay, the only thing that is affected by the delay are the drums. You can hear the sample still sounds the exact same. And even in real time, when I hold down remain, now that I've added it back, it's now a part of the effects. Likewise, I can go to the drums. And you can hear the effects on the other side with that piece. So if I go into my effects, and you can see linearly, the original audio goes into bus 1, bus 2, 3, and 4. That's exactly how the path goes, which is why you hear both effects when they're pressed on the entirety of the song. Now, if I hit the enter button while I'm here in the effects mode, you'll see it starts to separate between bus 1 and bus 2. What that means now is that bus 1's effects and bus 2's effects are now operating independently of each other. And I'll prove it right now. So you remember in bus 1, I have the delay, and in bus 2, let me exit out, we're in the phaser. So based on the way it's set, the only effect I should hear is the delay. There should be no phaser. So I'm going to go into bus 1. I'm going to take the delay off. And you see there's no effect on it, even though bus 2 still has the phaser on. So what does this mean I can do now? So if I stay into the bus effects in bus effect number 2, let's go to the drums, right? Let's go to where I place these drums. If I hit the remain button while in bus 2 and I push them, the buttons now become green, right? So now these buttons are directly correlated with bus effect number 2. And you can hear that phaser effect on there. But when I go into bus 1 and hit the delay, it won't affect the drums. But it will affect the sample. So when I go into pattern mode and play this pattern, and you can see this is on bus 1 and you hear the delay. This is on bus 2 where you only hear the phaser. Take the delay off. There's still that phaser on the drums. I go into bus 2. Now the phaser is off, but the delay is still on. They're both operating independently of each other. So if I go into my effects settings again, and you see right now how I have bus 1 and bus 2 separately. When I push enter, right now bus 1 and bus 2 are linear, which means, like I said before, that signal is starting over here and going all the way through. This is the difference though. Right now, everything on bus 2 is not affected by anything on bus 1 because my original signal, this line right here represents the green pads. The green pads do not start until after bus 1, which means even though this is linear here on the effects, the first bus effect, which is the delay, will not affect these drums. Only the phaser will affect the drums. And now you hear that phaser a little bit more prominently because it is in the drums as well as on the sample. The sample is now affected by oscillation. So I take this off and you hear the drums are not affected by delay. The drums are still normal. It's that isolation. And if I take the bus off and take delay off, you hear the phaser still affecting the pads, the samples. Instead of just putting down the effects on particular samples while you're playing the pattern, you can also record those effects and you can record when and how those effects are done in real time. So first we're going to go into the pattern select mode. And we're going to go off the same pattern that we're using, but you'll do the same thing that you would do if you're creating a pattern. You're going to go into record mode. We're going to record on pad 4, okay? And then hit record again. And it's going to count down and it's going to count down and it'll start the music. You hit the mark button while it's recording, motion record start. You saw that on here briefly. Now, when I put in my effects, so I press them at certain points, right? So you'll see right here, when it comes down to it, it'll record those buttons. Not only can you record when it comes in, but you can also record the actual movement that you do with it. See, it just lit up the moment I lit it up. Again, I personally don't think that this is adequate as far as the way it records it. As you can hear, it does it a little bit more extreme as far as what you're trying to accomplish when you're trying to put those effects in. Okay, so let's say that the pattern that you've made and the effects that you put on that particular pattern, you're not a fan of. You don't like them and you want them taken off of your pattern. So what you can do, you go into Pattern Edit. And since this is already pressed, it's already on this particular pattern. In other instances, you would have to push the pattern. It will ask you for that. What you do is you'll press down the delete button. You'll hold it down and it'll say delete from loop. And it'll ask you what you want to delete from your loop. You hit that mark button, operation complete, and now it does not have any of the effects that you put on that pattern earlier. So if I exit out of pattern edit mode and I go into regular pattern select, you'll hear yourself. So as you can see, that takes away the pattern effect off of there. So you can re-record a new one or you can keep the pattern exactly the way that you want. That was kind of a quick video. I just wanted to kind of talk about this. I've been kind of playing around with effects and different ways of making patterns. I just kind of wanted to share this as I continue to progress into my music making journey. Once again, I do thank you for the listen. I thank you for the watch. And until next time, peace.